According to my clock, we're about 1 minute ahead of schedule as far as starting. So I'm going to get it started. There's going to be a couple of us that have to leave earlier, so try to get through this as quickly as possible. But we'll call the meeting to order. First on item is public input. Anybody have anything they would like to discuss with the board? If not, next on the agenda would be delegations. The agenda says John Lepke, but it's Alan Lepke, the owner of Papa Murphy's. You can come up, Alan. Alan is a longtime resident of the city of Mitchell, and a former board member of Parks and Rec. So,
Thanks. A little background. I bought Papa Murphy's on October 1st of this year, so fairly new. Papa Murphy's here in Mitchell has been a very successful business. I have plans to increase sales for that business, which in turn the city will take more tax dollars from me, which in turn you guys will hopefully get a little more money to spend in your budgets. One of the things that I'd like to do is have the ability for my sign to be seen from the road. Initially, I just wanted to have the 5 trees in the boulevard chopped down, so there'd be no interference with my sign. After thinking about it a little more and knowing the history of the park board and the things that came on the park board when I was on the park board, that was a pretty big ask. So I'd like to rephrase what I am proposing. My proposal would be that we still get rid of the 5 trees, but we plant 4 to 5 new ones that will only grow 15 to 20 feet, not higher than my sign. And I would pay for the 4 or 5 trees. I also looked at the ordinances, and if I was making a strictly dollar decision for my business, simply going to the end of statute 8-2-2 says any person who shall violate the provisions of this chapter shall be subject to a fine of not more than $100. So in theory, I could chop those 5 trees down and pay $100. Instead, I'm coming and I'm saying I will buy 4 to 5 new trees of your choice, but I'd like them to not grow taller than 15 to 20 feet. And I will pay for those trees. So that is my request.
I'll just go back to a few things on the ordinance. Under, I'm sorry, back down here. Just to clarify a couple things. When it comes to the boulevard, it falls under section 3 as well. And that actually would be breaking the law at that point because it's a board decision. So the general rule is would fall under the board guidelines, which is under section 3 in the ordinance. So I don't know that you can just take out a tree and just get the $100 fine. I don't know what else. I'd have to ask our legal.
I talked to your legal today. He said this particular situation is governed by ordinance 8-2-2 only. And in the very beginning of it, it says, without written permit from the superintendent of parks.
It's also covered in the board guidelines under section 3.
Okay, he did not tell me that today.
What's that?
He didn't tell me
Oh,
that
okay,
today,
yeah.
your city attorney.
I actually talked to him right before I left, just to ask him about, it's 373B2. The board has exclusive power and control over all trees, shrubs, plants, grass planted in parks and parkways, including planting, pruning, spraying, cultivating, preserving, and otherwise maintaining the same. So it is covered there as well.
Okay,
I don't know about the legal, if there's, I don't know if there's I don't know where you go from there, but that, let me go over a couple other, the 3 trees are the only ones on the property. The other 2 are on your neighbor's property, and also on your property, you're not the owner, correct, of the
correct.
property?
Yep. I've
We-
talked to the owner, though.
We would need the request, though, from the owner.
Okay,
Yeah. And like I said, the neighbor's trees there are, we'd have to have a request from your neighbor as well to
Okay.
remove those other 2. There's that fourth one, I don't know. It's kind of on the line. It could go either way, I think. As far as what the guidelines are for commercial landscape standards, it's 1 tree for every 50 feet or 6 spaces for every 50 feet. Under this one, these are 50 feet apart. So removing trees and planting new ones would theoretically fall under that guideline, but that would be up to the board here, I think.
I drove by there today, and literally, there's trees from just the south side of Jackson Clare all the way down to Rooster. That whole strip of trees is, and they're not young trees, I mean, by any means.
I don't know what type of trees they are.
They're maples.
I don't know if the board has any direction or thoughts on this.
Just wonder what kind of can of worms that opens.
Well, we just planted 50 trees on Burr Street that are eventually going to block signs.
That's exactly what I was thinking as we were doing this, as I was sitting in front of McDonald's planting a tree, going, well, if we do this, what kind of can of worms does this open everywhere else?
You're not gonna get many people that come up here and say that they'll pay for 5 new trees or whatever to put the trees back in so that you still have met the standard of the ordinance. And also knowing you guys also have some signage issues, so I would hope that you would be a little lenient towards a request like this as well.
Anybody else have any questions for Alan?
We denied it because of the maturity of the trees. We feel it just wouldn't look good, but, the board can make a request and I can go back and ask Justin, but ultimately, it would probably require council to change the ordinance.
Has any of the board members driven out by there at all? I mean, and to look at just the trees? I mean, well, I'm just wondering if this is something that we might want to consider tabling it possibly next meeting and verify exactly what we can and can't do.
There's not much that you can do, and, I mean, you can give me the ordinance, unless you can give some direction or question that I can ask Justin, but what would that be?
Probably what I just
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
What can we do and what can't we do?
He would say nothing.
He'd say we could do nothing.
I believe so. He said specifically that 82-2 is more specific than 3-7-3. So it just, if we deny it, it's denied. I mean, it would take an ordinance change to change that.
Or the mayor saying,
The mayor could
I mean,
definitely weigh in.
Steve, Nathan, the
When-
mayor,
when-
then
when
the
you say
council.
staff, it ultimately is on the mayor. But if the board has a direction that they would like to see this, I mean, that would help as well. You prefer to take it out, or would you prefer to replant? What's that?
to change the ordinance. I mean, if we would all agree on it, to go with him to get rid of the trees, put some new trees in at his expense, but if the board doesn't have that ability to change that as far as our vote, why have it? Doesn't make sense to me. We don't have any authority to say, yeah, we kind of like that idea, it's helping that business out and advertising, and then what kind of can of worms if you open up as far as all these trees going up, if it's gonna block. So either change the ordinance or don't give us the authority to. Or give us the authority to change it and say, yeah, let's go, if that's how it's voted as a majority.
We make these decisions all the time. This is the first time in 4 years that it's come up. So we deny and approve tree removals on a regular basis.
And I guess
Yeah.
I don't agree with all your decisions that you make either.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions?
I will say I started here because when I was on city council, people would go through and we would always throw it back to the park board if they hadn't started at the park board. So I'm trying to do the right thing and start.
Is there a consensus that the board doesn't like the decision? I mean, if that's the consensus, I would like to hear it. I heard Mr. Merrick say he didn't like it, so.
Well, I don't like taking out any trees, period.
Mhm.
In a situation like this, they're beautiful trees. But I understand where Alan's coming from. Putting in new trees for that height, that's a new situation that I know when we went through and updated the ordinance for the trees, that was never even a consideration. Part of me is concerned about saying, well, we'll follow that route, only to have the city come back to us and say, you don't have that authority. Because the ordinance is written the way it's written.
We can make an ordinance request change if the
Well,
board,
yes, we
yeah,
can.
yeah, if the board
But-
can make that.
That's why I go back to
Request.
the question I asked you earlier. And maybe it needs to, maybe I'd feel more comfortable if Justin was sitting here and telling us, you know, you have this option or you have that option, but I don't want to agree to something and then find out we've opened a can of worms that we can never get closed. That makes sense?
Yeah, well, I guess the request would be to change the ordinance then, if, because we're just following what the standards are for commercial standards. We require businesses to put, we've required multiple businesses just this last month to put in trees, and so we don't ever, allow them to take them out unless they're dead or,
Okay, then I'll call for,
so we do have a dangerous tree ordinance that you guys just approved last month, and blocking signs was not part of that.
it's not a those aren't dangerous trees.
But those, the only way that you guys allowed to remove trees was under a dangerous tree removal policy, not under, sign, blocking signs. So I don't have any legal way to say yes either without changing the ordinance.
Is there a way to run by taking out, putting new in, as long as you're replacing by the city attorney? So
Yeah,
that you guys aren't opening up a can of worms, so to speak?
if they wanted to recommend that, we could take that back. But that would be up to the board. They can make that recommendation today.
Sure. And, I'll just say one more thing. The ordinance, I don't think, takes into account how close a business is to the street. So I'm going to take Innovative Systems as an example. You could plant as many trees as you want around their boulevard. You're still going to see the building, and you're still going to see their sign. But when they're so close to the sign and so close to the street, it's hard, especially for retail.
You can trim them up to 15 feet, or are they trimmed up, or?
15 feet in height. If I did that, I think they would look pretty bad. And I'm trying to not do something that makes nice trees look bad. I'm trying to be in a happy medium here. If I'm allowed to chop them to 15 feet, if you guys say no, maybe I'll go chop them to 15 feet. I don't know. I'd rather not do that.
I would just need a recommendation
I-
from the board.
Well, you're going to need more than a recommendation, because no matter what we do, I mean, the only thing that will not change anything is if nobody makes a motion to address the change. Otherwise, the ordinance stands as it is. Correct?
That's correct. But it would still, you can still make a recommendation to staff. So that you can do. If my decision is not acceptable to one, it'd be nice if everybody voted.
So you want a motion?
It'd be nice to give us a direction.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion either way.
We would just take that then to Justin, and then you can come back next month.
By not doing anything,
We're just leaving it the way it is, which is fine. Okay, no motion?
Unless you want to make that a motion. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
It'll more than likely end up back here because I'm not done.
Yeah, that's
I'm going to
fine.
take it to the next level, so it'll come back to you guys, I'm sure, to make a decision. That's how the council works.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Or I could just cut the trees down and get the $100 fine. It's my cheapest option.
Nate, I don't mean to interject, but I believe that the zoning code also requires trees in parking lots where there are retail or commercial spaces as well. So those boulevard trees might be being used to meet that city code requirement on zoning as well. Just so you're aware.
Sure, I could cut them down and then you guys could bill me to plant new trees, which would give me 10 years of seeing my sign.
Are there any additions or deletions to the minutes or the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our October meeting. We just went through additions or deletions. Angel, do we need a motion to approve the additions or deletions? Even if there's none? Okay, my bad. I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. Approval of bills.
Okay. Real quick, nothing new has changed since last month in our budget. I'm going to go to page 5 with the Recreation Center and just point out the capital equipment overage of $46,000 was due to the rooftop units at the rec center, and those were done with contingency funds. Page 6, the sports complex, just pointing out again our staffing is really close because of a lot of the weather that we had this year and drying of the fields and other things that he's had this month or this summer, I mean. And then the overage there of $20,000 on capital equipment at the bottom for $20,000 was for the side-by-side, the Polaris, right? And then page 7 for parks. Again, his repair and maintenance budget was over a little bit, but he's holding back in his supplies and materials this year to cover that. Mosquito program's over, but we got the funds from the grant to bring that, to zero that out, which I forgot to mention. The mosquito funds that are coming back, so we'll get that money. And then the campground did well again this year. We were down about 4,000. This is page 1 of the campground after page 9 here. We have 15,000 profit there, and we'll be looking at some, kind of growing that fund a little bit to do some remodeling projects there at the campground. But we'll present something in the future here. And then on to bills. Page 26B, $14,000 for the compressor. If you have any questions on the North Rink, but we did replace 2 of the compressor units there at $7,000 each, and we think that'll buy us at least another season. So hopefully we can get it in our budget in the near future. So at least we can get 2 seasons out of the compressors yet, hopefully. Page 28B. Steve replaced some trash cans out at the lake, and we're using those old cans for events and different things around the city. And I'm sure any of the older cans are are gone or destroyed, and we're replacing those. Page 33. The capital improvement for Lake Mitchell, that's the NDSU agreement to develop a public use plan for Lake Mitchell for the 14,000. And that should about cover it. If you have any questions, let me know.
No questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills as submitted.
I'll move to approve the bills.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. Old business. Any old business? Not, we'll move on to new business. Recreation.
If you don't have any questions about my report, I'll just highlight a couple things. Just like I stated at the beginning, October was a really busy month. Our check-ins were up quite a bit from the previous year at this time, and so and we're already up 500 check-ins this month from last year. So we're really busy. Our membership numbers they're fluctuating anywhere from 3,000 to 3,200 based off of our auto checking memberships and stuff. So we have new people coming in every day and taking tours and signing up. So the rec center itself has been doing really well. We are hosting the swim meet this weekend. Mac's having a 3-day swim meet, and they were originally expecting 250 swimmers, about 200 to 250 swimmers. Sioux Falls ended up canceling their meet, so now we're the only meet in the state, or theirs is the only meet in the state, and right now they're up somewhere over 300, and so it's going to be pretty comparable to the A meet that we'll have in 2021. So it's going to be a big meet, 3-day. They're going to be using our front gym for their camping, along with Gertie Bell's Commons area to host all the families, and so we're excited to host that many people. As usual, parking is going to be an issue, but I mean, everywhere they go, any meet that they go, the parking is kind of an issue. So, but we're excited to see how many people we can put in there, and they're excited to host that meet. So it's going to be kind of a neat deal this weekend. The Aquatic Center will be closed from Friday at 1 until Monday morning, but the rest of the facility will be open, all the workout areas at normal hours. So.
Has anything been done with the Intercounty Electric?
Not to my knowledge yet.
Parking?
Nothing. Nope. There's plans for it, but nothing yet. They did, and they sent out a map to all their people that are coming, but they have talked to the people that own the old Campbell's building across the street, and like they did last year, they got permission for people to park over there and walk across, so they just can't park into the parking lot and over across any other businesses, but that Campbell's one, Campbell's one they can. So that helped out a lot.
What do you attribute the increase in check-ins and membership?
I think people are just interested in coming in and finally seeing it. I mean, a lot of the people that we've seen sign up, they might have lived in Mitchell for 15, 20 years, but have never been in the facility, and they keep hearing, we have our commercials and on TV and on the radio, and they keep hearing it, and they want to come in and check it out. And once they do, they're amazed at what we can offer, you know, what Mitchell can offer, in a facility like that, so.
How did we do this year on fund passes?
The fund passes were up, I think the previous year we were at maybe 20 some, and we're up over 60 probably. So that, and we did a little bit better, we did a specific commercial for the fund pass that we did in like May and June. And I think that really helped a lot. So, and that's a good deal. It's about a 25% discount all the way around on all the different things if they take advantage of that. So we're going to continue with that, definitely. Anybody else?
Thanks, Kevin. Parks and Forestry report, Keith.
Well, we got everything winterized for the season. We got our fall spraying done for the town parks. We never got anything sprayed out around the lake this year. Want to thank James Valley Nursery for their 10 trees that they donated to their tree program that they put on, and they planted them in Hitchcock, Pioneer, Northridge. On that, we've just been working out at the day camp, the playground. We got it all assembled. The structure got concrete in, the posts got concrete in today, and hopefully we just got to get the borders up around it and the wood chips, that type of stuff, and a couple odds and ends. And that should be wrapping up. The volleyball court, we got the sand all in place today. Same way, just a couple of the borders to do. Probably won't put up the nets till next spring. Hoping to get all that, both them projects done yet before the weather turns on us. Other than that, on rain days and stuff, we've gone through all the Christmas decorations, got them ready to go. We're looking at probably next week to put them up again. Other than that, just odds and ends stuff out the lake, putting fishing piers in the bays and pulling out the docks, pulling out the buoys, and just some other day-to-day operations. Any questions?
Thanks, Steve. Sports complex, Keith.
We've pretty much wrapped up our busy season, so we have everything winterized. B-Dubs soccer went through the first weekend of November, so that's all wrapped up now. So we're basically on to the ice season, and my main focus now, since it's looking like it's going to be halfway decent for a while, is to get into dry run and remove a bunch of those trees and a bunch of the stuff that was still washed up from the flood that we had in, I believe, September. Questions? And that's going to take, there's a significant amount of things that need to be removed in dry run. So as long as it stays nice, that's where I plan to focus my guys.
Just because I don't know, where's Libarn at? Where's that process?
I got a box in the other day with cameras and a bunch of wires and things like that. So I'm assuming we're really close. I think there's supposed to be a couple TVs that come with it. I haven't gotten those yet, but I think we're really close. So.
Other questions? Thanks, Keith.
Yep.
Department report, Nate.
Yep, just a few things. I just wanted to recognize Walmart. They gave us $5,000 towards the skate park, and we'll be recognizing them on social media and thanking them for their donation through their grant program. Current projects, the Lake Mitchell Forestry Plan, I've been working with the state. I talked to them last week, and they said that it's kind of next on their docket to get to it. They're going to help us develop a forestry plan for around Lake Mitchell that we can put into that public use plan that we're putting together. So they're getting close to helping us out there. Artificial turf, we're just looking, we're just waiting for one more quote, and then we can kind of have another conversation about that. We got the 2020 fees today. The rec center sign, it looks good out above the slide where that was lit all this time, and we finally got that up. So we're glad we got that up, and I think it looks nice. The ice bumper car bid opening was was good. It came in at just over 68,000, but they accidentally included tax, I'm hearing, so it's a little bit less. So we'll be under budget on that. And the campground water is off for the season, and that's about it.
Thanks, Nate. Review of Pat Young playground design.
Yep, I have a couple boards up over there if you want to look at them. This one here is a accessible playground, which we don't have one where a wheelchair could just roll right onto the playground structure. And so we want to have at least one of those in town. And Pat Young's a good park. It's the next one on our master plan list that you guys approved a few years ago. And where we prioritized all the playgrounds and after the day camp, the Pat Young one is next. This one's a little more expensive, so I'm working with the Mitchell Advisory Council of People with Disabilities to help raise some funds. So I hope we can get some matching funds before we request anything from council. So I just wanted to get the board's approval on the design and that you're okay with moving forward with that. The price is right around $135,000. And everything would be ADA, but the playground structure will be fully accessible. And we do not have a full accessible playground.
What is the surface?
It's like a ramp. Oh, the surface is the wood chips, and that is ADA.
Wood chips is 88?
It is. Yeah, it would probably be cost prohibitive to double the price of that because it's already at 135, and putting in a hard surface would, significantly increase the cost. So with the way funds have been going, I don't want to get too much higher. But you can roll right up onto the sidewalk will roll right up to the ramp. So you'll be able to get right on. Same with the swing set. There's a hard structure all the way to the swing set as well. Can't see on those two, but it's on that bottom one. This would be a request that going into our 2021 budget. That's why I want to get approval that we're okay to move forward, and so I can start thinking about fundraising and also the capital project list that we'll be doing in April. Just to approve the design, and then yeah.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. So moved. I would have one question regarding that 2021 budget. We are not committing at this, it's just an
Just the
item on
design,
list.
yeah. We can spend 2 years working on raising funds. We can spend a year. Nothing's set in stone on what we're going to put into the.
Well, it can be set in stone.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're only going to get X amount of dollars to go after, and I want to make sure that
We can prioritize, yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I need a motion to adjourn and enter into executive session.
We're going to go into the mayor's office if that's okay, so I'll wait for your motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. So moved.
And we will be voting on fees after we get back.
Yeah. Request to adopt 2020 fees.
Okay, so we'll, wait, where do I start here? We can do a quick review of the charts. I'll go through those real quick, just so you know where we are. We do this once a year when we do fees. We talk about the department, our expenses and revenue. As you can see, our expenses continue to rise, but that was because of the new pool, of course. Otherwise, I think we would have seen a drop. And then our revenue is also showing some slight increases and but it's doesn't show up on the first chart, but you can see it on the second chart that we are seeing some increases in revenue. We were kind of level for a while. We're still not quite growing yet, but we're getting close with the new pool. That you'll see that revenue jump because we've increased our revenue significantly at the rec center. The department expenses, on the second page, we have the department cost recovery. Again, we've kind of stopped the drop in cost recovery, and hopefully we can start seeing that increase. I have this is set at the 50%. That's what was set by the board in the master plan, was a 50% cost recovery goal for the department. And there's multiple ways to get to a 50% cost recovery. It's not just raising fees, but also being creative about saving money with our expenses. It also includes, we're going to be doing the ice bumper cars. That's going to help out with the ice arena. We're going to be doing concessions at the softball complex, so that should help out as well. So we should start seeing some changes in the coming years here. The next page, I broke that out with the rec center. Again, you can see the jump in revenue and the jump in expenses, and we're still maintaining a 75% above cost recovery, which is exactly what we were targeting, and we're doing a little bit better. Programs and outdoor aquatics on the second page. These one continue to drop. The outdoor pool is had just continual. It was opened in 2006, so you can see where we peaked, and we've been kind of slowing down a little bit ever since. We can talk about how creative ways to get people back out to the outdoor pool, but the weather this year did not help. We aren't proposing any fee increases there either this year. Sports complex, again, Dan's doing a fantastic job. You'll see the expenses actually dropping. He's watching that. His cost recovery is also starting to increase because of that. We're also starting to see an increase in revenue this year. We're up about $15,000 and with our fee increases that we've done to help that out. So that brings us to our fees discussions. I don't know if there's anything else specific I want to point out. We'll just go through it real quick. The Outdoor Aquatic Center, I take that back. There is a fee increase, would be the swim lessons for the parent and child from 22 to 30. The ice rental at the ice arena for the associations would go from 63 to 65. And you can see the different programs and the increases there as well that Kevin has. We talked about the rec center program fees and also the after-school program. Let's see. Cadwell. And then so for the athlete, we have the per athlete fee, which is $17 for 13 and up. That's going up to 19. The athlete fee for 12 and under is going from 7 to 9. The per field fee is 32 to 34. And then the concessions are also raising by $50 each. Probably the one controversial new fee, I guess you can say, would be the gate fee. This is the capital improvement fee. What this would be is anytime someone charges on a facility, they would take on $1, and that dollar would be able to stay at that facility. We would still have to get approval to spend the money from council, but that money would stay there and allow us to one of the things that we want to do at Cadwell is the shade structure over the seating or the press box replacement, those kinds of things. We have no money coming in to actually do those projects, and they're competing with like the rec center and some of the other projects that we're trying to get done. So we feel that this would actually help us get some funds to get things done at those facilities. Dan, could you just share where they get charged, which programs charge fees?
Anytime there's like a weekend tournament for baseball, softball, they charge fees for that. Hockey does. You guys changed that. Over 18, right, for games?
Yeah.
Last year.
Well, one thing about it that I got to thinking as soon as you were talking about that is I'm pretty sure the State Hockey Association dictates at least somewhat how much we can charge. And so, yeah, that gets into kind of muddy water, because now all of a sudden you're basically taking $1. We can't tack $1 on, just get taken away. So, I don't know,
And you guys do charge like season passes, correct?
Yeah, there's
So
season passes.
That would
yeah.
be something else.
Yeah,
you'd
that's
have
something
to
else we'd have to look at, yeah.
navigate. And as far as I know, soccer does not charge for tournaments or anything. So it's kind of a work in progress, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I don't know if baseball and them have like
Well,
mandated pricing like that, where you can only charge so much or whatever.
they would probably, if you have agreements with outside agencies, they probably need to come talk to us and work out an agreement with us at that point. But for capital improvement dollars, we just had a request last month for capital improvement money and to put back into the facilities. And this is all I can come up with. And that money would stay there at that facility. So, but it would be up to the board. And
Nathan, can we talk a little bit about the fee increases?
yes, I'm sure you'll give them a chance to talk about this in a minute. Brian?
Yeah.
It'll just be a second.
Okay.
Yep. We've also talked about, we've done a balance fee structure to show you the cost recovery at each of the facilities, to show why we charge what we are charging. There are no increases for Mitchell Aquatic Club because we're under a 3-year agreement with them. And I also show what the increases will do for our cost recovery. That's assuming no costs go up, and that's not usually the case. I also have a history of the Cadwell fee history there, and yeah, if there's any questions, I can take some, and I know we have some public comment as well.
Luke Norden and Jeff Schmidt from Mitchell Baseball. Just after being notified of these fee changes, it brings a huge concern to Mitchell Baseball as a board, and I guess the amount of issues or amount of money that could potentially come out of our budget due to some of these things. I did a little bit of research with a couple of the other programs within the state, especially on this side of the state, and what their cities require of those organizations. And the only city that even comes close to Mitchell is Sioux Falls with some of their rates. We've kind of gone along with the rate increases, the last couple of years. I've been just going into my 17th year at doing this, and this last year we wrote a check for over $12,000 to the city for field usage, for player fees, for light fees. And there's a lot of programs within the state that don't pay $1 to their city. Pierre, Brookings, Brandon, Watertown, Aberdeen, a lot of these communities aren't being charged for lights, aren't being charged, don't require a player fee, don't require any of these avenues of revenue for the city. So when I found that out, and then I found out what we paid, it's not that much alarming, but then looking at the potential dollar increase on top of the ticket, we've kind of been in the position as Mitchell Baseball that we want to put ourselves out there to make not only us look good, but Mitchell look good as well too. And this last summer at Cadwell Park with the concession stand, we didn't have any control over that, but we took a black eye for sure with the decision that was made to have, who was in charge of the concession stand. So, and that was a reflection on us, which we didn't have any control over, and we, trying to explain that. So, for us to try to take on an additional dollar or try to monitor an additional dollar, we provided the youth of the state and with the amateur tournament, 6 tournaments last summer, which were all paying events. However, and I have no idea how the State Amateur Association would even think about partaking this additional fee. They might say thanks, but no thanks, we'll go somewhere else. Because we don't take any revenue off the gate of the state amateur tournament. So, the way we looked at it, and there was a great article written in the paper shortly after the season about what Mitchell Baseball, not only Mitchell Baseball, there's other associations too, but the amount of people and revenue that we brought into the city this last summer was a high number, was a high traffic for not only businesses, but just for the betterment of the city and providing, opportunities. Because you look at the $12,000 that we paid last year, and we've never complained about the fees increases, and we've kind of gone along with the flow. And but to add an additional, add on to that with, it'd kind of be a backbreaker for not only us, but it would be a backbreaker for the city. I feel that we would, it's better off for us, even right now, it's better off for us to play road games, just due to the amount of money that it costs to have a home game, with umpires, with paying the lights. I changed the schedule a couple years ago so that a lot of our teener games start at 4, so we don't have to pay a light fee. So, we try to combat some of these things, but if there's a lot of things or some things that we can't combat, that's one of those things that just to something that we're trying to provide for the youth of not only Mitchell but the state and the people that we bring in. It's just, I just think it's kind of a slap in the face to our association that they would be, we would be asked for more money on top of on what we provide on a yearly basis anyway. So. Do you have any other?
Just a couple things. Jeff Schmidt here. Kind of going off what Luke said there, if you look at this last year, just within the U12 age, we had 3 tournaments here. The first tournament is early May. There was 38 teams here, of which 12 teams were from Sioux Falls and Harrisburg. Now, how many people from Sioux Falls and Harrisburg come to Mitchell otherwise? Almost none. If we tack all this stuff on, and like Luke was saying, you know, we have people, you pay $5 a day to come to the games. Well, all of a sudden you go to $6, all of a sudden maybe let's say 3, 4, 5 teams drop out. Well, there's 12 kids on a team, you start adding up, now 40, 50 less teams, or families come to Mitchell. You know, one of the big things we always talk about is quality of life for the people. You know, we're bringing 50 families, you know, there, you know, there's 38 teams, 12 on a team, you know, you're talking 500 families coming to Mitchell for a weekend. You know, and I know there's studies out there say, you know, for each person that comes to town, the average dollar spent is actually, you know, because they use that for the Corn Palace all the time. You know, we got 200,000 visitors, it generates this kind of money. So I know there's formulas out there to say that. You know, the early bird tournament, the one in May, was our lowest attendance one. We had 38 teams. The one we have in mid-June, that they call it the Harv's Brian Wilson tournament, there's 45 teams. And then the state tournament near the end of June, there were 60 teams here for that. And that's just in our youth tournaments. As you start tacking all that fees onto us, and all of a sudden then we have less teams showing up, or, you know, there comes a point where you say, is it worth all the time to put into it? You know, and sometimes I think, yeah, I mean, everybody wants all the money they can get there with it, but, you know, we're trying to put on the best, you know, thing for people. The last couple of years, we've had teams from Fargo come down, and they came back this last year again, they said, you know, we just love coming down there. Well, they love the facility, they love how it's run, everything else with it. We know when they're coming down for 2 to 3 nights at least. You know, and you figure there, you bring 12 families, they're staying in 12 hotel rooms, they're shopping, eating, and doing all that stuff. I think that has to be taken into consideration too. And kind of like Luke said, right now, for us to put on a home game, a doubleheader, it costs us roughly $300. Well, you know, and that's playing our teen games, our 13, 14, 15-year-olds, playing them at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Well, now parents have to take off work or can't come watch their kids play because we want to try to save money on the lights at nighttime. You know, our kids are all from Mitchell. I mean, they're Mitchell kids. And we like to promote that to people. And people love coming to Mitchell. And we love having home games. It's great for everybody. You know, the parents, friends, grandparents can all come out and watch their kids play. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments? You know, the only comments that we have to make is, you know, when it comes to capital, you know, when I see Dan out there welding wheels onto mowers and driving 1980s trucks, you know, it's kind of hard for him to maintain those fields and keep them up, you know, to a high standard, you know. And so the only way that we can get funds is just to look for a capital improvement fee, and that's what we're proposing, but it's ultimately up to the board here. So, and then also same thing, we're talking about artificial turf, and we're talking about other things. We have to maintain that capital. We have $500,000 in the ice arena coming up to replace the compressor units in the compressor room there. So those are all capital projects that are competing with funds.
Truthfully, what they indicated was exactly correct.
Yeah.
Because money is brought into the city,
Yeah.
but it isn't brought into Park and Recreation. And we have to do our budget. And we're limited on how much we can do and where we can do it. I mean, it'd be wonderful to have an endless amount of money. I know the golf course is in the same situation. And so I don't know what other options we have. I mean, our budget for a given year is such that we have to maintain that. And we only have certain ways to increase revenues. And, you know, we can't ask the members at the rec center to subsidize what's going on at Cadwell Park or out at the soccer complex or at the hockey rink. I mean, unfortunately, the taxpayer can't pay the bill totally either. So it's got to be a combination of all of us. And it's sometimes, well, it is always hard, but that's the way it's done.
What kind of dollars do you generate?
Well, As far as, if you look at the state amateur, there were 60,000 people that went through that gate.
So you're talking a couple 100,000. You're talking across all hockey games and $100 person, right?
Do not know the people that walk through.
We haven't tracked it, so that's the only number that I know, but, and that's not every year either, so.
Luke, does, on the state amateur baseball tournament, the Exchange Club have they still, or do they still subsidize Mitchell Baseball or the Legion at all?
They,
With what they make during the state amateur? The
yeah,
Exchange
well,
Club?
we discussed this one of our last board meetings that, years ago was kind of there was a contract, that we would get so much, a percentage, around 20% of the, is it the gross?
The gross, yeah.
And it kind of was a gentleman's agreement, and then we're talking about reconstructing that contract, back with the Exchange Club, just so it's in writing, just because of people at the top of each department might not know what that agreement was, before. But I guess my other comment on capital improvements, I understand that where that money has to come from, but Mitchell Baseball has also put a very large portion of money into capital improvements already. With the backstop funding and the entryway and when the dugouts were redone at one time, and what the scoreboard, basically providing the scoreboard, the new scoreboard for Cowboy Park and all of those things. So I guess if you're looking at, new capital ways, basically we, in an instance where we'd be paying for this, we would have to cut our hands with providing any other money for funds anywhere else. Basically, we've always had the agreement with the city that we would provide half for the project if we asked for half of a project, and the city's always been great about that. And we've, I don't know the thousands of dollars that Mitchell Baseball has already put in back into the facilities, out there, both at Drake Field and at Cadwell. But that doesn't seem to, that's kind of thrown out the window now. We're looking at that, doesn't seem to matter much anymore, so.
Would Mitchell Baseball have any ideas as far as doing the concession stand at Campbell, managing it throughout the summer? Being responsible for the concession stand?
Well,
finding the
so
help?
Exchange Club is in charge of the building, so they're in charge of finding,
Who runs
During the
it?
state amateur.
No, year-round.
no, year-round. They
That
own
might
the,
be something that
yeah.
we need to look at. I didn't know about, and
They provided the money for the facility, for the concession stand facility, so they own the rights to.
half.
So we don't have any, we're not in charge of.
Yeah, we have no say in that at all.
I do feel like I need to just, from the city's perspective, because a lot of times this comes back to why isn't the city giving the money? The city is already subsidizing park and rec operations $2 million. Our revenue sources, which 80% is sales tax, has declined over 600,000 in the last 5 years. We have competing demands for those dollars. Those competing demands include roads, infrastructure, water utilities, all the police, fire, all those other services that compete for general fund dollars. So when you hear the Park and Rec Board saying the funds are limited, we don't have the resources available to us that we had as a city even 5 years ago because of that decline in revenue, partly because of what's happening with shifting demographics, and we don't have as much of a retail trade draw that we used to in some specific categories. So the conversations that they're having aren't because, not trying to make it difficult for anyone, just trying to react to the current climate that the city of Mitchell is dealing with. We've had to cut over $3 million out of operational budgets over the last 5 years just to get our budget balanced. So that's where some of the conversations originate from. As far as what the fees and charges are, I think that's your board's consideration and discussion. But I want you to know that it's coming from a higher area. It's coming from the council telling everyone that the budgets have to be structurally balanced. We've increased transfers to park. I think, Nate, when we did it was $400,000 to $500,000 over the last 5 to 6 years, but we've had over a $500,000 loss in first and second penny sales tax, where other cities see, consistent growth too. So.
But that's one thing we're saying too. I mean, if all of a sudden we have 2 less tournaments and you've got
Right.
anyways in the parking lot's full for days.
Right, but you can also look at, we also have the Sports and Events Authority, and I know you guys are coming and getting funding from that to pay for some of the fees and charges when you have tournaments as well. So I just hope that everyone's using the resources available. I just want you to know where it's coming from. It's coming from the city as a whole having to reduce what we're doing in operations due to some of those shortfalls.
This was especially like that $1 per person walking through the gate.
Yeah.
You're talking $5,000 or more.
And I'm not here to talk about your fees, just that
Yeah.
where the funding conversations have originated from.
Well, Mary Ellen, you're in charge now. Is there any other comments right now from the board?
I've been involved in baseball for some time, and one of my concerns is when we bring the state amateur tournament here, which has been a mainstay. I mean, they love coming here, and that is one of the things that even though they've taken it other places, they come back to Mitchell because how the tournaments run and the amount of people that come through that gate just for baseball alone. To me, I think Luke has a concern. How many teams come in, how many people come with those, and how many nights that involves maybe a stay. It's not only the B tournament, some of the A teams end up here too. So just that alone would make a huge difference in the possibility of, as they look at it in the future, what would they think as far as that particular situation. And so that would be a concern of mine as far as making a decision.
Did he just say they negotiated 20%? Did I hear that? Because that's what I heard,
Say that again.
that they would get 20% of the, is that correct?
Not of the gate.
Concessions.
We don't touch the gate.
Okay.
Concessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gates of the state.
The way that they do it in Sioux Falls, Sioux Falls is different from here. Sioux Falls, like when it was an Augie, they guaranteed them a certain amount. The association, the State Am Association. So Augie guaranteed them, I don't know what the figure was, $45,000 or $50,000. They said, here's this. They went out and got the funding. They basically didn't care who came through the gate. When they come to Mitchell, they know they're gonna make more money than that. So they don't want a deal from us. They don't want Mitchell Baseball to say, we're gonna give you straight up $50,000 and then we run the gate. They run the gate, they go and take the tickets, they take all of the revenue from the gate. We don't even, the Dakota Wesleyan basketball team has done the ticket sales the last couple of years. The association, amateur association, pays them amount to monitor their money.
We used to have to
and
pay
say it. We used to have to pay that, and we weren't even getting any money out of the deal. So
If we can, I can call the other cities and ask them what they get from the state amateur and, and see if they get any gate fees and report back to the board next
Well,
month.
there's really like 2, it's us and Sioux Falls, basically. It's all.
Yeah.
the only money we make, well, see, so we pay the fees of the lights and whatnot, and the workers, the extra workers and whatnot. That money's coming out of money that we make from the concessions with Exchange Club, 50/50, bingo, and t-shirt sales.
And SEA.
The B, no, the B.
SEA too.
Yeah,
And the
well,
Sports Authority,
Right.
yeah. But with the increase money that we had to pay this year for extra workers out there, that was basically covered by the sports authority, that we went and got extra money from them, so we wouldn't have to burden that extra cost, for the overtime hours out there, so.
But for the board, we need is answers on capital. How do we get capital dollars and where do we get that money from? How do we get, Dan, some new mowers and new equipment and get these shade structures done and artificial turf and these requests? I mean, the money's just not there. So, I mean, it makes it hard to have two conversations all the time.
So we have a request to adopt the 2020 fees. I'd entertain a motion.
Guess I'd like to think about it, so I'd make a motion to postpone it until next month.
I second that. All in favor, say aye.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like answered next month? I can do some homework for you specifically.
I guess I'd like to see some of the fees from other cities.
Okay.
I don't make sure it works with our, specifically the Hockey Association. Like I said, I know that we're somewhat state mandated. I'm pretty sure we are, used to be that way.
We'll talk to the state organizations. Is that what you're asking, to see what?
Well, like, I remember correctly, the way it works is when we bring in a jamboree, a game, or whatever, we don't control how much we charge at the game. And I'm pretty sure that's started in another community, because they built a new rink and they were charging more. And they put a cost to that, so that everybody's fees were the same. And like I said, if you're already looking at them going, the association charging $2 an hour, what do we rent? 2,000 or 1,000 hours, 1,200 hours, I mean, you're talking, that's a $5,000 to $6,000 increase, and then on top of that, doing that. It's just like you guys, it's a lot. It's a lot for-
Okay, we'll get that information and bring this back next month.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to table it till next month with some more information coming to us. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Any other old, or any other new business? And the last thing then is we have to set the next meeting date. And normally it's the second Thursday. I would like it changed to the second Wednesday, if it would be okay with everybody else. Only because I'm gonna be out of town on that Thursday. Yes. 11th rather than the 12th? Anybody?
Calendar here.
We're just okay with everybody to have it on Wednesday, 11th, at 6 o'clock here? Okay, then next meeting is December 11th. Motion to adjourn?
Thank you very much. I know these are tough conversations, but we need to have them and bring them forward. So thank you.
Especially when they walk out on the light. Of course, it didn't have to think about it. because Luke has a point, like on Facebook, pay, 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 pay. Whereas you go to another city, they don't do that. You know, and so, I mean, it was